Welcome to Channel AMEC, your insight to the Australian visa system. Good day everyone, my name's Carl Young, your online YouTube visa consultant. Are you interested about migrate to Australia? Why don't you consider to subscribe to my channel and turn on a little bell on the side, so once we have all the updates and news, you'll be the first one of getting all the insight. Today's video is all about news. Obviously, you noticed that the Prime Minister Scott Morrison had called for the federal general elections dated on the 21st of May, a couple of weeks to go. So both sides, both party is eagerly pushing out policies to actually attract voters. Now, obviously, immigration is part of the big plan. Well, it wasn't really, but well, not until the pandemic hit the Australian economy. And now, obviously, if you are in Australia, you notice the inflation, the cost of living, the shortage of a skilled worker. Business cannot find people to work. Although the unemployment is so very low today, sitting at about 4%. But it also, in the opposite side, means that there's so many jobs that cannot be actually be filled with skilled workers, and especially Australia as a large continent only have 25 million people. You cannot really find everyone to actually fit everywhere. Now let's look into two news articles today, which giving out more hints and more directions from the public opinions. Of course, it's not policy itself, but it actually affect the policy maker, affect the politicians, and that is what this channel is all about. That's why all the fans subscribe to my channel, want to know what's coming up in the future so I can get better prepared. Now let's go into the first news. It's from SBS Hindi. Obviously it's more of news going for Indians, but I think the Indian community, but I think it's really relevant to everyone who is wishing to migrate to Australia. So the title says migration is vital for solving Australia's labour shortage. Immigration Minister. So obviously Immigration Minister Alex Hawke had attended one of the, I'm not too sure what conference that is, but basically saying that look, we are very putting our intentions to skilled workers. So what they have done, although the annual intake sitting at 160,000, but they have increased for skilled workers for about 30,000 at the total, which will actually, I think is a positive news. But I think the public is still saying it's not enough. So this news came out from yesterday, and the Australian Minister, Immigration Minister Alex Hawke, and Assistant Minister of Custom, Community Safety and Multicultural Affairs, that is a very long name, Jason Wood, met the Multicultural Community Group, which include representatives from India, in Melbourne on Tuesday, discussing the issue regarding immigration visa. So this is actually affecting you and me and everyone else who is wishing to migrate to Australia. So obviously the good news after the budget 2022 and 23 is about a 30,000 additional annual intake for skilled migrant. But what about all the other people? So giving out the updates, the minister asserted that the migration program is vital. Well, obviously this is he doesn't need to say that, but you know, politicians require to rephrase some sentences which really brings no meaning to us anyway. So anyway, it goes on with the since border had opened, there has been 600 to 700 people arrived back in the country. Well, is it good? Well, obviously yes, but is it enough? I don't think it's enough. That's more than 500,000. Well, think about this. It's all across the whole continent. It's still not enough because Australia is a big land, a very big land. It's still not enough. That's why I don't think the public and the community in Australia has actually feel that those jobs has been fulfilled. Yet there's still a lot of shortages out there, and also cost of living, inflation, blah blah blah, and goes on. The federal government last month announces this year's budget to have the skill migration increase up to 109,900 places. That's 30,000 more compared to the previous year. Obviously, taking those quarter out from the family migration. So if you have your family looking to migrate to Australia, you probably won't be too happy about this. However, there's actually less people lodging family visas during these 2 years anyway. Another thing that the government is eagerly required to do is obviously due to the pandemic, and they always say COVID-19, but it's obviously it's an economic problem. Okay, so they miss out a lot of foreign students and backpackers. Well, you can name so many institutions they have just been closed down during these 2 years, despite that there has been a lot of relief and grants and money being sent into Australia, but by the government of Australia. And that also singled out an issue that the deficit of the money that has been given out during the pandemic, how would the government make it back? That's another issue there. So anyway, this is just showing a conference that the government is doing. So I think this conference that the Minister of Immigration had conducted, it's more of a political, you know what I mean? Because elections coming up, they just want to show their face and say, look, we're friendly, we're helping, we're out there. Look at this. We got 4 people sitting here. I really care about the voters. And what else? Anyway, there's another angry side. Let's go into another news article. Now, these are the angry business people. They don't think it's enough. So what does this go? Okay, hollow promises. That means the promise was empty. They did not get what they want. As I've read, foreign workers need to meet PM job targets. So, as you know, on budget 2022 and 23, they have increased 30,000 annual quota for skill migration, but the business people and industry group is not happy. They don't think it's enough. Number of foreign workers in Australia would need to boost significant to meet Prime Minister Scott Morrison's creating 1.3 million new jobs in 5 years, pledged by a major employer group has described as hollow. Whoa, that's a big word. Again, we are going into elections. Whether or not this will actually affect the future policy, let's have a look. The industry group is calling permanent resident skill migration level to be raised. Economist says that the problem is not creating jobs. It's already so many jobs, but it's not enough people to work there. Vacancy at record high. That's the key problem. Okay, they keep saying they're creating jobs, but problem now in Australia is this: vacancy are at record high. Although there's 4% unemployment, but there's still a lot of vacancies out there, and there's not enough people to fill out the vacancy. I think the major rollout and the changes for the employment sponsor visa is really required. Obviously, that idea has been coined by the Liberal government and also coined by the Labor government too. So I think that's gonna come up very, very soon. Although they have a short fix for the short term, but it's not permanent yet. So Morrison unveiled the job promise on Tuesday, highlight previous announcement of funding. Australian Chamber of Commerce and Industry Chief Executive Andrew McKellar. Now, I recall back, I don't know, a few months ago, the Chamber of Commerce is always there saying something. So who's a member including Commonwealth Bank, Woolworths, Telstra, so all the big business giant corporations, they are not happy. There's limited stances behind them. Be honest, I just think it doesn't have the detail. It doesn't ring a bit hollow. So again, they're basically saying that the 160,000 total annual permanent intake is not enough. Is not enough. As you see, the next paragraph says they need to be up more than 200,000. But again, look, the government is into elections. They are voters. They don't want more migrants. But the fact is, Australia need more skilled migrants, and that's a fact. And that's the problem. The problem is right up here. It says the vacancy is at record high. They need to be filled, otherwise the economy cannot continue to turn its turbine. The Business Council has recommended permanent migration to lift to 220,000 places in 2022-23, which they are pretty disappointed because the budget had just announced a couple of weeks ago, with 70% of to be workers or skilled migrants, so 154,000 for skilled migrants. In fact, it is Sydney West that the Prime Minister's coalition not lifted permanent migration cap to boost, to increase those things. But again, this news is basically talking about how these politicians, and they are eagerly wanting at the time of election, obviously, is the time to actually voice out. So opposition leader Anthony Albanese said the coalition had press release of job target, but no plan actually delivered. I think the key here is still number is the key. Obviously, the business and industry bodies and groups wanted the total number to be increased. So I have no doubt whether or not the result of the elections, the coming future for Australia, migration is still gonna be much wider open for opportunities. So again, I've been saying this 2 years ago, the window for migration opportunity is coming, because we had this pandemic and we had this economy issues, obviously this, and then inflation's coming up, also the war going on in Europe. I think migration will become more and more critical for a country like Australia. So there's just a lot more other people talking about how they should have things. As you can see down here, unemployment rate of 4% and tracking down, workforce participation above 61%, and job vacancy reaching record high at 423,500 in February. Now there's so many jobs out there and just cannot find anyone to actually work there. 423,500 jobs. No one can actually fill those requirements, although we did have 600 and 700,000 people return, but a lot of them are students and they need to go study. Okay, so going down here basically is just the business groups and industry bodies. They're basically saying, look, annual intake of 160,000 is not enough. We're not happy. Would they vote for the Liberal Party? Or would they vote for Labour Party? We don't know. But we don't know which party wins the elections. I think the policy of immigration and the more annual intake is definitely coming up. Anyway, if you want more information, make sure you subscribe to my channel. And we should see you very soon. Goodbye.